I'm Leez at Everything Microstock, and we're going to look at how to use Photoshop's lens correction tool to fix distortions in image perspective and unwanted vignetting. These issues can be caused by the lens or the focal length used or the shooting angle, and they should be fixed before adding the photo to your Microstock portfolio. I'll be using the tool found right in Photoshop, but if you shoot in RAW, you can use the nearly identical lens correction function in Adobe Camera Raw. I'll start as I usually do by copying the background layer using the shortcut Command-J on the Mac or Control-J on the PC. And I'm going to rename that layer Lens Correction. That'll help me keep track if I add more layers later. Now as I look at this image, it looks like everything is leaning kind of up into the middle here. The church is leaning up and to the right, and these buildings are leaning in and to the left. And that perspective distortion is caused by my wide angle lens that I used. The other thing I see is that the outer edges, especially the corners, are dark. There's this vignetting that I didn't want, probably caused by the lens hood on my wide angle lens. So I want to fix both of those issues with the lens correction tool. I'm going to come up here to the filter menu and drop down to lens correction and select that. This opens a new window with my image in it, and the default tab is this auto correction tab. Now Photoshop has this thing where if it could find the camera and lens combination that you use to take the photo, you can try and have it auto correct for the distortions, the chromatic aberration, the vignetting. If you can't find your lens in here, you can also search online for a lens profile. I really like to use the custom settings so I have more control of the changes that I make. So that's what I'll do now is I'm going to select this custom tab, and I'm going to start by straightening up this perspective issue that I see. Because things look wider at the bottom and narrower at the top, I'm going to move the vertical perspective in this direction to make the top wider than the bottom. And that should start to even things up for me. Kind of slow down here. And that looks about right. -27, that's the number I come to, but of course that will be different depending on what image we're working on. I still feel like things are leaning a little bit to the right, and so I want to straighten the image. I can do that by changing this angle rotator here, but it's pretty touchy. So I think I'll change that back to 0, and instead of trying to do it there, I'm going to go up to the top left where there are a couple of tools here in the toolbar, and the second one down is the straighten tool. I could have gotten it by the shortcut of letter A, and choose that straighten tool, and I'm going to draw a line on an area that I want to be straight in this image. And I think right here near the center, which is on this edge of the church entry, if I draw a line here that should be perpendicular, it ought to straighten it nicely for me. Let's see. Yeah, I like that. That feels better to me. Okay, so we've fixed the distortion. Now I want to take care of this vignetting that I don't like. And so I go to the vignetting slider and I'm going to move it to the right to lighten those edges and make them more of the color of the rest of the image. And somewhere in there feels okay to me. And that looks good. So the only thing that we have left to take care of are these blank areas that were created when we did that vertical perspective change. Now we're going to have to crop the image to get rid of that, and if I go back to the auto correction tab, there is a checkbox here where Photoshop can auto scale the image by cropping it, but I don't usually use that because look what happens. It chops off a little bit of the top of my church and a little bit of the edge. I'd rather crop it myself where I have control of it. So I'm going to uncheck that, but I'm going to click OK to take the rest of the changes that I did make. And there they are. I'm going to turn off the view of my background layer so that I could just see the lens correction layer and see the edges that I'm going to need to crop my image to. I'm going to grab my crop tool, which is a shortcut of C, and I'm going to crop and remove these edges. But I want to be careful up here. I don't want to cut off any of my church at the top or on the sides. And that looks pretty good to me. I can double click and there's my cropped image, and I like that. So I could come over here and see the before and after. So those are just some of the things that Photoshop's lens correction tool can do for us.